a house that traumatized my family. I'll start this off with a little bit of a backstory and important information. I'm a 23-year-old female. I now have 2 kids, but at the time of this story I only had one, a 2-year-old boy. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house. It was my son and I, my fiance, and our 2 cats. Now, I grew up in a small town with my grandparents on their farm. The property they lived on was infested with bad energy, evil spirits, demons, etc. I don't know why they stayed in that house so long. In the early 2000s, their barn burnt to the ground, killing many of their horses. It was ruled spontaneous combustion. It was assumed there was some tightly baled hay that must have had bits of moisture in the middle, and it caused the fire. They rebuilt in the following years, and as I said, this house, this property, was evil. Shadow figures, horrible nightmares, weird animal deaths, and so much more. I got out as soon as I could, and years later, I ended up in the house that this story takes place in. It was summer of 2019. We had just bought a pool for our backyard, and we were so excited to use it. We filled it up that day, and I got a text from my grandparents later on letting me know that they were moving about 6 hours away, and that the nice California king-size Tempur-Pedic bed from the guest room was up for grabs. I told them I'd love it, so we went to grab it. Totally interrupting our swimming plans, but that was okay. Bringing something from that house into mine was the worst mistake that I've ever made. That night, we woke up to my 2-year-old son screaming from his room. We ran in to find him sitting up in his bed, pointing to the front of his room. That's where we found a puddle, a 3-foot by 2-foot puddle of water on his floor. It was summer, and there was no rain, and we did check the roof and walls for any type of leak, but there was none. We checked him to make sure that he didn't pee. He didn't. I smelt it. Gross, I know. It wasn't cat pee. There was absolutely no explanation. He slept in our room that night. The next morning, we seen our bathroom sink was clogged. My fiance turned off the main water line under the sink so that no one could turn the water on, causing an accidental flood. A couple hours later, we headed to the store to get stuff to unclog it. When we got back home, I had seen water coming from the bathroom flooding the hallway. Both sink handles were turned on and water was pouring from the sink. We checked our security system. There's no way that someone broke in. That's when I started freaking out. I didn't even understand why all of a sudden this stuff was just happening. Fast forward to a couple days later, we're headed out to the pool, finally. As my son heads towards our door, he looks up in the corner of the ceiling, immediately drops to his knees and covers his eyes and starts screaming. He told my fiance he saw a dead girl crawling on the ceiling. I flipped and we left the house for the day. 3 days later, we have some friends over. We're drinking and we're hanging out. My friend had an air mattress on my son's bedroom floor, and we decided we needed to head to bed. All the lights and TVs were off. 15 minutes later, the TV turns on and the song Drowning by Kodak, I think, starts playing. Listen to it if you haven't. The first 30-ish seconds are what played. I went out to turn it off and the remote was dead. So no, a cat didn't step on it. Nothing. Then I started putting pieces together. I called a medium. She told us to take the pool down immediately, that either something was trying to warn us that something bad was going to happen with the pool, or something was going to try to drown my son or pets in it. I still have chills telling this story. She also said, I'm sensing you guys just brought something into your house, and if there is an evil attached to it, you need to get rid of it now. That's when it hit me. The bed. We brought a travel trailer and moved a month and a half later. My son, now 6, still remembers the girl that he had seen. Scritch, scratch, scrutch. There it was again. Jeremy put his hands over his ears and tried to block the noise out, but its scratching against the hardwood sent chills up his spine. Stop that right now! Jeremy clapped his hands over his mouth, terrified at what he had just done. The scratching under his bed had been happening for 3 weeks. The scratching, weird noises, and sometimes he heard whimpers and words too amongst the odd sounds. His parents had said, "Oh, you're just dreaming," or "It's just the house settling." But Jeremy knew that it was something under there. He knew in that way that Children always know. The scratching stopped, and he lay there, silently shivering with the covers pulled up to his chin. He had done it now. Now it would slink out from under his bed and eat him up. It would come towering out from under the bed and hurt him with its long claws, or... "Who's there?" said a small voice that was trying to be brave. Jeremy jumped in surprise. That had been a child's voice. The thing under his bed had spoken, and it was a kid, like him. He peeked over the edge of the bed, expecting yellow eyes or a mouth full of pointed teeth, but no one peeked out from under his bed. After a few seconds of heavy silence, he decided to be brave for a little while longer. I'm Jeremy. Jeremy Bird. Why have you been under my bed all these nights? And making noise? Me? Said the voice. And Jeremy, it sounded terrified. You're the terrible thing that's been making noises under my bed this whole time. No, I haven't, Jeremy said, as he laughed at the absurdity. Oh, yes, you have, said the monster, who was blustering with angry terror. You growl and you roar deep in the night. I've heard you. Jeremy thought for a moment. Does it sound like this? And he pretended to snore. He'd gotten pretty good at it if he wanted to trick his parents so he could stay up a little longer. The monster quailed in terror. Oh no! I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. That's the noise I make while I sleep, silly, said Jeremy with a laugh. Oh, said the monster, relieved. But what about the terrible squealing you make? It added suspiciously. Jeremy thought about it, and as he thought, he leaned back on the bed, and the springs creaked and groaned. There! That scream! It chills me every time I hear it, said the monster with real terror. That's just the mattress, Jeremy said. He is becoming less afraid of this monster as it proved to be more fearful of him. Well, what about those little noises you make at night? They're so invasive. They make me want to scream. Jeremy thought, what could this creature be talking about? He looked at the glow in the dark stars on his ceiling as he contemplated and smiled, as he remembered how he and his mom had pasted them up there. What small noises late at night could this creature be talking about? He thought, and his silence made the monster cry a little, a high-pitched whine at the back of his throat that made Jeremy cringe. Those are whimpers, Jeremy realized suddenly, understanding the noise as he soon heard it. Why do you make that sound? It asked, but Jeremy already knew the answer. Because I'm scared of you, he said, feeling a tear slip down his cheek as he lay in his bed, and a child's fear over things his parents will never understand, because no one believes me. There was a silence for a while. I'm sorry, said the monster in a small little voice. Jeremy felt himself smile a little. It's okay. I don't think you meant to scare me, it's just in your... No, not for that. Well, I am sorry for that, the monster added quickly. But I'm more sorry for what's about to happen to you. Jeremy tensed. What do you mean? Well, I had two monsters, one in my closet and you. When I told the closet monster I was more afraid of you than him, he told me that he could make you go away. He told me that if I distracted you, he'd catch you off guard and make sure you'd never scare me again. Jeremy was silent. I'm sorry, said the monster. Please, won't you forgive me? Jeremy didn't answer. Hello? Are you still there? Please, don't be mad. I'm sorry. But Jeremy would never answer. The only sound to be heard was the soft drip on the floor, and the closet doors, light scratches, and pulled shut. So my grandma's house was an old mobile home, out in the middle of nowhere. I always got a bad feeling there and hated visiting just because it gave you that feeling of hopelessness. Maybe it was because there was no Wi-Fi, or maybe it was just the house itself. All I know is that growing up, something made my stomach turn there. A few nights ago I had a nightmare about it. The lights were off except from the occasional blink from my grandma's washer, and outside was pitch black.
I waited for a moment for my eyes to adjust. It was then that I noticed the light on in my grandma's room. Down the hallway, curious and determined to get out of the darkness, I started to walk towards it. However, halfway down the light shut off. I froze and suddenly felt fear creep in. The door was partly open and hadn't moved, but something wasn't right. Somehow, I acknowledged something, or someone, was staring back at me, even though I couldn't see anything in the doorway. Whatever it was had me more panicked than a deer in headlights. Suddenly, out of the silence, a voice creeped up next to my ear. I could practically feel their breath. All it said was, "Run." With no hesitation and no control over myself, I did just that. I turned and ran back down the hallway and to the back door. I could feel and hear heavy footsteps rapidly catching up to me from behind. I made it to the door and swung it open, practically throwing myself outside. Outside was different, like completely opposite of what had just happened inside. The light was bright, like on a sunny day, only it wasn't light from the sun. It wasn't hot or cold. It was perfect. Almost right away I was calm, happy even. White sheets swayed back and forth and out of my face as I recognized my grandma's backyard. However, the grass was green with flowers, butterflies surrounding the place. It was beautiful, but not real. I knew that in real life this backyard was mostly dirt and now dried up. I was also aware that her backyard used to look like this when my mom was younger, long before I came to life. The dream ended there, and when I told my mom the next day, she went pale. She told me about how she had messed with an Ouija board in that house when she was my age. She said that she was alone, so my grandma wouldn't catch her using one, and that my mom also had a nightmare the night she used one. In her dream, something made of pure evil and darkness had taken over the house. Long story short, it possessed and killed everyone in her family, leaving her alone hiding in the bathroom. She never had a bright side to the nightmare. My mom claims that she also hated my grandma's house since then. Even if she doesn't understand what happened, she still hated that house just as much as me. My grandma still lives there, and I'll visit every once in a while, but only during the day. Call me dumb or superstitious, but I'd rather play it safe than experience something worse.